Welcome to the Master Wall video training series. We continue with basic training, the Aggre-flex system, part 2. Plan your aesthetic joints. An aesthetic joint visually breaks up the wall surface without breaking the plane of the wall surface. Locate these were shown on the construction drawings. It also gives a good starting point for finishes and helps you avoid cold joints. Always plan your insulation board thickness to keep at least 3/4 inch of insulation underneath the system to avoid cracking. Plan your layouts at soffits. You can create a drip into the soffit that will limit horizontal movement of any rainwater. You want to make sure to interlock the inside and outside corners, and the same rule of keeping 3/4 inch insulation under the drip joint is still required. Mesh is needed in the Aggre-flex system for tensile reinforcement. Heavier weights of mesh offer better impact resistance, and those meshes are found on the mesh data sheet. Use diagonal mesh or butterflies at corners of the window and door openings to improve strength. Detailing the EIFS around a plumbing spigot can vary. It can be as simple as sealing the EIFS to the spigot and using a spacer sleeve to prevent crushing the EIFS, or blocking can be used, which would be more common in commercial applications. In those cases, the EIFS could be either back wrapped or wrapped. Electrical penetration detailing can also vary. Sometimes the outlets can simply be sealed to the EIFS, or blocking can be used, such as in commercial applications. In those cases, again, the EIFS can either be back wrapped or wrapped. Detailing around a light fixture can also vary. The fixtures can be simply sealed to the EIFS, or blocking could be used as well. Again, the EIFS is back wrapped or wrapped. Terminating the EIFS against a pipe can also vary as well. You may back wrap the EIFS system following standard methods, or you may run the base coat and mesh into the opening and splay it out on the back side of the wall, wrapping the entire sheathing and system. When the wall is moving, we need to provide an expansion joint in the system. A vertical expansion joint is shown here, which can allow for structural movement. The EIFS can either be back wrapped as shown, or it can simply be wrapped into the opening onto the framing or the CMU if that's the substrate. If floor line movement is anticipated, we want to allow an expansion joint there as well. We would use weather stop flashing tape at the movable joint, and at that point we can run the base coat and mesh continuously throughout that joint. We want to leave at least a 3/4 inch minimum joint space for expansion joint movement, and it's important not to return the finish into the sealant joints. At dissimilar materials, we want to use a sealant joint. This cleans up the appearance of the system and makes the transition nice and clean. Alternatively, if this was a drainage system, you could leave that open to provide for drainage. Depending on construction timing, the base coat and mesh could be wrapped onto approved substrates as shown on this detail. Alternatively, we could use a casing bead or simply back wrap the system following normal practices. We want to leave a 3/4 inch minimum sealant joint between the two materials. A sealant joint would again be used where the EIFS terminates against a roof flashing. There are several methods of flashing, and it's important just to seal the EIFS system at that juncture. It's important to slope the EIFS to shed water. The industry standard is a 1-to-2 slope. It's very important to slope large projections such as this parapet cap. We still want to slope at a 1-to-2 ratio, but we want to use 2 layers of standard mesh as a minimum, and for wider caps up to 18 inches wide, we could use Guardian as our base coat, which is our waterproof base coat. The EIFS needs to be protected when it meets sloped roofs. Typically, a roof kickout flashing is used at this location and allows any of the roof drain water to go out onto the EIFS surface. The roof needs to be detailed to protect the EIFS. You want to keep the EIFS about 1 to 2 inches above the roof line. This allows for any maintenance and cleaning of debris. You can use back wrapping or casing bead as the normal methods. It's important to seal the kickout flashing against the EIFS and important to seal the EIFS to the soffit. Metal parapet caps are often used to protect the EIFS. These coping caps must extend at least 2 inches over the EIFS, and you should seal the lower edge to protect the EIFS from any wind-driven rain. Also, the coping caps need a slope to drain it usually onto the flat roof itself and secondary protection for any leaks. When EIFS is used on a chimney application, most chimneys are going to need a cricket to help deflect water. It's also important again to keep the EIFS 1 to 2 inches above the roof line and to make sure a kickout flashing is installed if the chimney extends beyond the fascia. Protect the EIFS when installing downspouts. Sleeves must be used to prevent crushing the EIFS system. Also use sealant under the strap and make sure to only snug secure the downspout. Protect the EIFS when installing signage. Use a structural support with a sleeve and a spacer. Use an oversized washer to set and sealant against the EIFS system to prevent leaks. Also, space the signage for ventilation. This concludes part 2 of our basic training. Please join us for part 3 next.